Hi and welcome back to the cottage. Today I'm going to share the updates we've made this summer on our minimalist cottage kitchen. We finished building our home in 2020 and honestly the kitchen was the last thing to be done before our appraisal. We were in a bit of a time crunch and as such we rushed a few things and left others off. If you've ever built a house or done any renovating of your own, you might understand how absolutely exhausting that it can be. And once we crossed that finish line of the appraisal, we were so burnt out on projects and didn't want to do any more for a really long time. We just wanted to rest. Slowly through the years, we have added more personal touches throughout our home, and finally this summer, we were ready to tackle the kitchen. They say that every makeover starts with a good before picture, so here it is. I know that these types of videos don't get as many views as some others that I put on my channel, but I like to do them anyway because for us they serve as a sort of time capsule memory book, and it's fun for us to look back and see all the ways that we made our house a home. If you enjoy these videos as well, I would appreciate it if you put a house emoji down in the comment section to let me know that you enjoy these videos as well. The first part of this project was adding wall tiles. I was really excited for this upgrade because I was getting tired of wiping up splatters on the bare drywall. These tiles were purchased 4 years ago when we had our house built and had been waiting in boxes in the garage ever since. Now, we don't claim to be master tile workers, but subway tile is pretty easy to work with because they have built-in grooves for the grout, so you don't need spacers between each and every tile. You just get your first row level and then stack them one on top of the other. Craig made all of the detail cuts for the odd-shaped pieces around the outlets and the trim, which then allowed me to keep working on placing them on the walls. It's actually kind of crazy how quickly this part of the project was. Of course, I'm showing this part in fast motion, but literally within just a few hours, the tile was all in place. It really had us wondering why we had put it off for so long. I should mention though that the kitchen project was done over the course of several weeks with just little bits of time that we had here and there. So you'll see a few outfit changes throughout this video. We held off on the grouting for a bit because I wanted to make sure that this was the height of tile that I ultimately wanted it to go and not a little bit higher. In the original kitchen plans, I had the idea of adding a couple of wooden shelves on either side of the large center window. Ultimately, though, there wasn't a good reason to add extra storage or shelving in the kitchen, and so we opted out of that. And this tile level I think is good because it is about where you would have wall tile if you had upper cabinets, and so we don't anticipate ever doing that, but if we did, we wouldn't have to take down any tile to add those cabinets in the future. And when it comes to grouting vertical tile, I use a little bit of an unconventional approach by applying the grout with my fingers. And it looks a little bit silly, but it's the best way I've found to do it without making a gigantic mess. And even though this way does make a little bit of a mess, I can still contain it into a smaller area at a time, and I feel like it goes a little bit quicker. A couple weeks later, I set my sights on fixing up the sink. Honestly, a huge portion of the design of our kitchen is based on our vintage Kohler farmhouse apron sink, which was once in the kitchen of my husband's grandparents' home, and when they remodeled their kitchen, they set it outside in the woods where it remained for over 40 years, and we knew that it would make the perfect accent piece for our cottage, and so it was really a central focus point of our design. Unfortunately, this was one of the rush job projects that we had to do quickly before we closed on our house, and to make it look presentable for the appraisal, we used an epoxy spray paint coating finish for it, and literally within 6 months of using the sink, that paint started chipping off. It was super disheartening. I knew that no matter what, the chipping paint would need to be removed, so I just started chipping away at it slowly one day, and that led to me using citrus strip and completely removing all of the paint from the sink. And once the paint was off, Craig and I realized that the original vintage sink enamel was actually in really nice shape, besides a few rust spots. And so he took it upon himself to try some different tactics to remove those areas, and eventually he found that a paste of rust out and water, which was mixed up and then left to sit on the spots for an hour or two and then scrubbed, did wonders. In between scrubbing sessions, we decided to tackle the space below the sink. Now, this area is kind of a hodgepodge. It's where I keep the dish drain when it isn't in use, as well as some rags and ice cream buckets that I use for both cleaning and getting veggies from the garden, but it's also the place where our kids have some of the kitchen tools that they have purchased with their own money. One of our sons really likes to spend time in the kitchen, so he has his own little air fryer, and our youngest daughter has a baking kit and a few cookbooks, for example. Anyway, this space was not well organized. The first step was to put down some vinyl stick tiles to protect the plywood. Again, this project was put on hold for nearly 4 years and took literally less than a half an hour. Why do we do that? Why do we put these things off? I don't know. Then Craig offered to build a little shelf that would make the area more functional. This made a great spot to be able to put large bags of potato chips or other bulk type of items. In the end, this space probably isn't the prettiest to look at, but it is functional, which was the main goal. We were both really shocked to see how well that the rust spots and stains came out. The sink looks so shiny and almost like brand new, and it makes us wish that we had never painted it in the first place. Then it was time for the more decorative aspects of the kitchen. First up, the top trim for the tile. I wanted it to be a little bit chunky and substantial, and since we decided against having the shelves, I thought it would be nice to have a bit of a ledge that I could use to place a few decorative pieces or some artwork if I wanted to every now and then. We used stock MDF 1x2 pieces that Craig mitered at the corners, and when he was done with the installation, I painted them the same white color as our cabinets. And seeing that nice crisp white inspired me to add touch-up paint to the windowsills as well. And the last DIY project for this update I'm going to share with you is the skirting for the sink. This was always part of the overall plan for the kitchen. To make it easy on myself, I purchased a small set of curtains and then sewed layers of fabric on top to make it more opaque. The initial curtains were kind of thin and see-through, and I didn't really like that look. I also added a lace detail toward the bottom. This lace was one of the things that I asked for from my grandma's estate after her passing. I remember her little sewing basket in the basement. My sisters and I would peek through it and look at all the thread and buttons when we were kids. So it's fun to be able to add this lace to our home. The neat thing is that when I was sewing this, I was using my other grandma's sewing machine. I think that the skirting just adds a nice softness to the kitchen that wasn't there before. And yes, I acknowledge that everything is all white, but because this is on a curtain rod, I will be able to switch it out as I want going forward. I could see making a fun skirting to use during the Christmas season, for example. It just gives me a lot of flexibility in the design. For now, I'm loving the simple minimalist look in here. To pull it all back together, I first had to do a thorough deep cleaning of all the surfaces. The countertops, cabinet faces, and even the floor were covered in a thin bit of construction dust. I knew that I wouldn't feel like the project was complete unless everything was clean from top to bottom, and so I'm really glad that I took the time to do this. And finally, it was time to add the finishing touches, a few new pieces for the room. This rug was actually a Walmart purchase, and I'm really impressed by the overall quality of it. I also replaced our old bulky dish drain with this more sleek and thin sink mat. I think that it's going to work really well. It has suction cups at the bottom so it won't be sliding around, and it will still protect the bottom of our sink from any scratches or nicks. There's just something about a newly refreshed and fully clean space that just draws a person in and makes them want to spend time there. And so it's been really fun to be able to use this space to make meals for my family and just enjoy the fruits of our labor. All of the DIY efforts, the sweat equity, every last bit of it was worth it. And I know that this space is going to continue to be a functional area where I can create healthy meals for my family for many years to come. Now, I can't say that this is for sure the final version of our kitchen. There may be some more updates or changes that happen through the years, but for now, I'm very satisfied with what it looks like and how it functions, and I'm just so happy to have this project behind us. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the transformation of our minimalist cottage kitchen. Thank you for watching today, and I hope that you'll stop by the cottage again really soon.